Hello and welcome to the Hippo Express DX agent training. I'm going to be going through the platform with you today from an agent's perspective, showing you guys how to use the technology and going through a few of our policies around scheduling and some of the terminology. We also have released a PDF training manual. That document is very useful. It breaks down everything very clearly, and a lot of the things we're going to be going over today, most of the things, in fact, are going to be in that PDF for your reference in the future. So we're going to go and get started. Before we actually dive into the technology, I want to go through a little bit of terminology. We have a couple of different event types for our application, and so it's very important to understand the difference in the two and the protocols that go around them. So we're going to talk about live events or appointments and scheduled events or appointments. The two key terms there being live and or scheduled. So we'll start with live. A live event or an appointment is a consultation that you're going to have a provider in real time, right? So during a live event or appointment, the provider will be connected with the patient during the requested consultation window in real time. You will set this window when scheduling the event on the calendar on your agent dashboard as shown in the section Scheduling on DX in the PDF training manual. These appointments and events require a 72-hour minimum notice when scheduling on the calendar in your agent dashboard. So any event that you schedule that's further than 72 hours out is automatically going to be considered a live event or appointment. What this really means is that we can guarantee that we will have a provider on that event at the scheduled time. Right now, at our current phase of growth, where we are, we're unable to guarantee that within 72 hours. However, we oftentimes are able to fulfill. So that brings me to the next term here, which is a scheduled event or a scheduled appointment. So all events scheduled with less than 72 hours notice are considered to be scheduled events or scheduled appointments. When scheduling a scheduled event or a scheduled appointment, you will need to collect from the patient 3 preferred contact windows over the following 48 hours if they can be available for a call from the provider. This means in total you're actually getting 4 windows because you're going to enter in the time that you're setting the event for. Our first action is to see if we can get a provider on that for that time. However, us having those 3 additional fallback times from the start make things a lot faster and smoother and require a lot less communication between you and our support staff and the patient. These appointments and events require a minimum. Oh, wait, I'm sorry, I'm reading from the wrong place. You will need to place these 3 contact windows you retrieve from the patient in the description of the event when scheduling on the Hippo Express DX calendar. Also is shown in the section Scheduling on DX in the PDF training. So just to recap, scheduled event and a scheduled appointment is any event or appointment placed on the calendar without a minimum of 72 hours notice. For those, we can't guarantee a provider at the scheduled time, so it's best to set the expectations with the patient that, hey, we're going to do our best to get a provider on this at this time. However, should the provider not be available to call you at that time, could you give us 3 additional times over the next 48 to 72 hours that you can be available for the provider to call? Collect those and place those in the description or notes section in the event creation, which I'll show you now, and we'll be able to make that a smooth transition. If it has more than 72 hours, you're good to go. Just create the event. We'll get a provider on it. If there's ever an issue, we'll contact you to resolve it. So we're going to go ahead to schedule an event. You can either click on the date and click Add Event, or you can click this little purple plus sign here and then just select your event date. So the event name, this is simply a pointer. This tells us, our agents, our doctors, as well as you and your staff, where to locate the event or the environment that you've created on the calendar. So we're going to go ahead and call this John Doe. Let's say that I'm meeting with John Doe and his wife. So the host company is going to be your company name. So we're just going to put your company or your employer. The host representative name is going to be your name. Whoops. It's going to be the agent name, your name. This is going to be your phone number. And this is going to be your email. So the event date. This is the date that you are setting the event for, that you're going to be meeting with the patient, and you would like for them to be able to meet with a provider for a consultation digitally or electronically online, however you'd like to phrase it. So we're going to set it for the 29th, which is today. We're going to set it for, we'll say 12:15 a.m. And we're going to say that it ends at 2:45 a.m. And then we have our consultation start time. So the difference here between these two is this is the time at which you'll arrive with the patient or at the event. This is the time you will be leaving that event. This is the time where you will actually need the provider. We have a cancellation policy. That cancellation policy is only in effect if you cancel within this consultation window, the consultation start time and end time. So what we recommend is that always set this window back at least 30 minutes. Give yourself time to do insurance verifications or whatever else needs to be done so that if the appointment needs to be canceled, you're able to do so before we have a provider sitting there staring at the queue waiting on a patient. So we're going to set this back 30 minutes. We're going to say our consultation window starts at 12:45. That gives me time to speak to the patient, do everything I need to do. If you're doing an event like an employee benefits health fair or something along those lines, set it back as far as you need to. Sometimes there's education that goes on, presenting and several other things. So, if you need to set the consultation start time back an hour or an hour and a half, 2 hours, do what fits your event. Just know that we use this window here to schedule our providers. This is what their shifts are scheduled around. So we're going to say that this goes all the way to the end of the event. You're going to select your time zone. Expected volume. This is not the expected number of tests or the expected number of patients you're going to place through our system. This is the expected number of people in attendance at the event or the appointment. Just as I said, we're going to do John Doe and his wife. We're going to put the number 2 here. The address is going to be the location that we're going to be doing this event. So if we were doing this at John Doe's house, it would be John Doe's address. If we were doing this at our office, it would be our office address. If you're doing this at a third-party location for a health fair or an event, then you would place this. You would set that address for that. So now we're going to come down here to the description or notes. This is where on a scheduled event or appointment, which as you can see, we're scheduling this with very little notice. So this is going to be considered a scheduled appointment or a scheduled event as we have multiple patients. There's no real format for it. Just come in here. Let us know that that's what you're entering. And then it can literally be something as simple as this, right? We'll say that the patient's available on 8/29. The second fallback time is going to be 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Oops. And it can literally be as simple as that. You can also use this to communicate anything else to our support team or anything that you need to communicate to the patient, as this section is also, I believe it's displayed on the itinerary. You will also select the CGX PGX workflow here. It's the only option, so it's pretty simple. And you're going to hit Add Event. You'll notice you have the status bar up here. Now we have a success message. And now our event should appear here on the 29th. This is our demo server, so it takes a second. Here we go. All right, so now when it is time to start working your event, you're going to come in here to the event itself, and you're going to hit View once you found it on the calendar. So the way you enter a patient into our system is with a patient RSVP. This was built for a very specific purpose. However, this does allow you to capture an additional opt-in. This part of the process was very specifically built for the employee benefits type health fair setting. So we know that a lot of times the I guess the goal with employee benefits is to increase utilization rates among the employees. And what we wanted to give was an ability to market and to reach out to them prior to. So if you're able to RSVP patients for an event prior to the event, this sends a link, an itinerary, and puts information inside their phone so that they're able to find it and get to the event and have your information should they need to contact you to reschedule or see if there's another event that they can attend in the future, et cetera, et cetera. But if you were just doing an appointment when you meet with the patient or even prior to, you will just use this to enter the patient into the system. We're going to start with Mr. John Doe. We're going to enter him into the system. We're going to enter his first name here, last name, and then his phone number. And we're going to hit RSVP. And now that's done, we're going to add his wife. And now you can see both of them are here. Should you ever need to contact the patient directly, you can click here to get their email address if they listed it and their phone number. If a patient ever does not receive the recent link, or they not ever receive the link itself, then you can use this resend link button. What happens when I hit that RSVP is they receive a link. When they click on that, it opens up a web page that shows them the itinerary, which I'll show you in just a few, and it also gives them a security pin. You need that security pin to access the intake form so that you can edit the information. So either if you're assisting or if the patient is doing it, they'll need the pin, which is sent to their phone. But if you're to assist them or do it on your device, you're going to need that as well, which you can get that from the patient. And that documents that the patient gave permissions to you, as the only place we send that link is to the patient's registered unique phone number. Now, as you can see, Maitland has now disappeared from this queue. That means that she has moved to the in progress queue. In progress means that the patient is currently working on their intake form. Now you can see I can click on this plus sign. It will tell me which step she is on, and I can watch her move from step to step. I have a status here. It shows she is in progress, and I have the time that she has been in this queue. So we're able to watch her go through these steps, and if she ever gets hung there for too long, we're able to reach out and see if she needs assistance, and she's also able to ask us if we can help. So on the patient form, as they're filling out the intakes, there's always a big purple question mark up in the top right hand corner. It says ask for assistance. At any time, the patient can hit that button and it will request assistance, and it will pop up here on our screen, which I'll show you in just a moment. When it does that, you're able to click the button that says access form and enter into the form itself and begin editing it so you can assist the patient. Or for instance, where this becomes very handy is when a patient's unable to upload photos from their device, they may need you to do the uploads. And so they're able to pass the form over to you, the permissions are documented, and then you have the legal right to edit that patient's medical records without any potential consequences. So as Maitland gets through here to step 5, we're going to see the status change to needs help. And now we have the access form button is now accessible. So I'm going to click on this, and you can see this has now taken us into her form. On her phone, it is now grayed out, so we're not crossing each other's lines and working on the same thing at the same time. So she was on step 5, which is her cancer history. So we're going to help her with this. In theory, I would be communicating with the patient here, getting the answers from them and assisting them with inserting them. We're going to go ahead and put this here and go on to family cancer history. On family cancer history, you'll see there's a little bit more information that's required. We're going to say that her grandmother had breast cancer on the maternal side. If you need to add more, you simply click this add button. To remove, you would simply hit remove. We're done here. We're going to move on to the next step. And now we're going to finish helping, and we're going to pass this back to Maitland so that she can continue. Now what I want to show you is another alternative method to completing these intakes. What happens if the patient does not have a device that's capable of handling the technology of the application, their browser's too old, whatever the case is? So here, now that John Doe has been RSVP'd, if John Doe does not have the ability to complete this form, I can actually opt to do this on my device or hand my device to him so that he can do it. The way you would do that is by going to this resend link button, clicking on it, and then selecting no finish on this device. And of course, if a patient ever does not receive the link, feel free to hit resend link and then select yes, and it will resend it to their device. But you can hit no finish on this device, and now you're taken into the event itinerary. This screen is the actual screen that John Doe would have been shown when he clicked on the link that he was initially texted. So now you can see we have some of the details from the event. We have the name of the event, the date and time, the location itself, your company's name, your phone number, and your email, and a Google Map pin so that they can locate it should they be coming to your office or to another event, etc. To begin the consultation, you'll just simply hit request consultation. This is where you would have to ask the patient for the 6-digit PIN that was texted to them. So we're going to enter that here. And now we have the ability to begin editing these forms, and actually give it just a moment. I've been logging in and out from different servers, so it will sometimes do that on our demo server. Here we go. Okay, so now it'll give us the ability to edit these forms here for the patient. And so, of course, we would be asking the patient all of these questions. This entire process is documented very well inside of the training manual. I'll go through it. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each part, but I will go through this for you. So we're going to go through here. We're going to say that he's requesting both tests. This is a bit of information, definitely good to read through. Information on the test, the results, privacy and confidentiality, personal benefits, possible risk, limitations, use of your specimen, genetic counseling, financial responsibility, and research and development. So here you would have the patient sign. You're on to the next step. This is the patient's demographics, their date of birth, their address, their biological sex, their height, weight, whether or not they're adopted, and then of course ethnicity is optional. This is the authorization release. Health records, one thing I will state is that it is very important. Try to get their primary care physician information or ensure that they place that in there. That just helps us do our job, helps make sure that the providers can do their job, the genetic counselors can do their job, and that their primary care physician gets all the data that comes back from these tests and is able to utilize it to make changes to their diet, their treatment plan, and help them prevent the onset of these diseases for which their insurance is paying thousands of dollars for. So it is very important. So we're going to place no here just so we actually, you know what, we're going to put yes so you can see this being done. We're just going to enter in some information here. Last appointment with primary care. We'd like to have this if possible. It's not a required field. Alright, primary care of Texas, and then we'll say no to a specialist. This is the information that can be released. We definitely want them to allow all records to be released, but of course that's up to them, but that does make everyone's job a little easier when it comes to communicating. So we're going to go ahead and continue moving through here. We would sign to get this patient's consent here. I'm going to go ahead and add some cancer history. We're just going to add, actually, you know what? We're not going to add anything here. We're going to say he only has family history here. And it's his uncle On the maternal side, have you had cancer genetic testing in the past? Of course, we're hoping that they say no here, because that's this is a test that you can't really have more than once, but most of you would already know that. We're going to say he's not taking any prescriptions. We'll give him a couple things here. On to the next. All right, so we will need a picture ID upload. We will need a selfie of the patient. This is very important as well. We have to have this. Information about the patient's insurance. We're going to say this patient has Blue Cross Blue Shield. And we're going to say that the patient is the primary insured. We need a copy of the front of the insurance card, a clear copy, a image of the back. Then here, patient is asked if they would like to elect to use the third-party genetic counseling that is provided should there be any positive results. We absolutely encourage this. This is vital to them understanding the results and being able to utilize them in a way that benefits their health and their future. If they select no, the patient and their primary care physician will be responsible for interpreting these results. It's not usually the best scenario. We do not recommend it. We're going to submit here. Now that this is done, one very important step is that if you use the finish on this device option, always hit log out at the end so that you can go back in as the agent. Otherwise, the app may act a little funny, as it does not like you being logged in both as a patient and an agent. So now that we're back in here, I'm going to go into this event. We're going to visit the queue, and now you can see we're both down here in awaiting review. This means that we are now awaiting a provider to pick us up, and here in a moment you'll see that Maitland is going to be picked out of the queue. She's been waiting the longest here, 6 minutes in the waiting review queue, so she'll be the first one to be picked up by a provider. So we will see once that happens, her status will change. And now you can see Maitland has changed to in review. Now John Doe has been bumped up to the top of the queue. And we will continue to see that change as she will be completed and processed out. And now you can see the time resets with every status in this queue, so it'll tell you how long she's been in each part of it. When they're on call with a provider, this will actually change to on call, and then when they're finished, you'll see that they get processed out of the queue. Now you will see that John Doe will get picked up momentarily. We're going to go ahead and move on to ready for collection so that I can show you this process. So we can see that Maitland is here in the ready for collection queue. Here we have what we call our verified collection process. This is very important. We built this process to help keep everybody safe, to ensure that we have proof and verification that everybody's doing things the right way, and it provides a level of protection and comfort for everybody. The agents, the patient, the providers, and the labs, everybody involved knows that everybody's doing things the right way. So I'm going to walk you through this process. It's very important that you do it the right way. The first thing I'm going to show you here is that you have a notify button. We built this system so that everyone could have, let's say you have a very busy event. You could have one person managing each page or each queue you have here. So a lot of our clients have an individual collector who will be working an event. And so most of those are nurse practitioners or whatever the case is. One thing I must state here is that we very much must be adamant in the necessity for privacy and following the proper regulations and protocols for that. If you have patients who are doing consultations in a public setting, they need sterilized headphones so that others cannot hear the conversation, and it is absolutely best practice to have a private room or a screened off area for them to do the consultations. That is per HIPAA, and you want to follow that to your best ability. So I recommend, if you have not had any HIPAA certifications, that you do that. The certifications are about $15 online, and they will absolutely give you quite a bit of information that will help you. So now the first step here is when a patient gets approved, they are sent a QR code to their phone. So let's say that you had several patients in here. Now it's Maitland's turn. You just finished collecting a sample from a previous patient. You could use this notify button here. What that did is that sent the patient a text message that notified her, it's your turn, you're up next, come get your sample collected. And so we'll say that the patient has now done that. They've come over here. I am going to scan the QR code. Then I'm going to show you in just a moment what that will do. Is I'm going to visit this on this website. I mean on this screen so you can see it. We're going to go in here. Let me pull this up. So here we have this link. And when you scan the QR code, a link is going to pop up. Now, if you have an Android, you may need to download a QR code scanner from your app store. They're really easy to find. They're free. They're really easy to use. You just hover your camera over the image of the QR code. If you have an iPhone, it'll automatically recognize it, and many Androids will as well. It'll display a link to you. You click on the link, and it's going to take you to this page where you're going to be asked to log in. So we are going to log in and verify our credentials as an agent. And now we're going to be shown a picture of the patient, the patient's selfie. We're going to be given a collection ID. This collection ID is what we're going to write on the patient's sample envelope that we're going to send to the lab along with her first and last name. So we're going to write Maitland Doe, and we're going to write this collection ID on the envelope. And then we're going to pass this to the patient to sign. This is the patient's consent to give their sample. Once that has been done, you will see this collect button pop up here. The very next step is now you are cleared to collect the patient's sample as you have collected their signature and their consent to do so. After you collect their sample, you're going to hit this collect button. If you forgot to put the collection ID on the sample label, then this is a good time to say no and get this collection ID again. Let's say we've now done that and written it down. We would hit yes, and it's going to take us to this screen where we will be asked to enter the date that we, time and date that we took the sample itself, right? So we're going to say that we took it at 12:31 a.m. Sample kit IDs, these are not mandatory. If your lab provides sample kits with these, we very much do ask that you place it in here. In the future, there may be some different specifications around this, but if the lab you use does not provide a sample kit ID, there's no barcode or ID number on the sample kit boxes themselves, then you can simply put NA or none, and it will still allow you to go through and submit. We're going to submit. This process here can take a little bit, maybe 10, 15, even up to 30 seconds, as right now it is taking everything, packaging the phone consultation, all the signatures, all the documents, everything that was entered by both patient and doctor, and it's packaging it all up. And then sending it off to the lab. So you'll notice that John Doe has never hit this queue. The reason for that is the provider did not believe John Doe met the requirements for medical necessity for either test, and he's rejected John Doe's application or intake and request for a CGX or PGX test. So that is it, guys. It is literally that simple. You know, we very much recommend, I'll give you guys some tips. We very much recommend that before any appointment or event, make sure that you go and test out your technology before you get in there with any patients, right? You don't want to put yourself in a position, you never know if you're going to have internet connectivity issues. It's very common in the telemedicine world. You never know if, you know, there's going to be an issue with your browser, or maybe our app's having an issue. And so you want to resolve that and figure it out first before you're in a position where you have a line of patients or anything else. If you do have issues logging in and getting into the event prior to being with the patients, call support at 214-225-2040. This number is also in the back of the training manual, and they'll be able to assist you and resolve the issues to make sure you're good to go with the patients. Our support line is open during business hours. Outside of those, you're able to reach us by live chat with our agents. You can do that by visiting support.hippomed.us and using the chat bubble at the bottom. You may also submit tickets there and browse our knowledge base and FAQs. That is it. What I highly recommend is that everyone get very familiar with the PDF training, as everything that I just showed you is there with screenshots and a breakdown of all the processes. Keep that handy, print it off, keep it with you so that you always have that whenever you use the system, as it will very much help you get through this. I would say 80% of the support calls that we get on a day-to-day basis are, for the most part, things that could be answered then and moving forward with that training PDF manual. So be sure to use that. If you do have any questions or need any assistance, please do let us know. Make sure that if you're scheduling an event with less than 72 hours notice, that you're collecting those 3 backup contact windows from the patient prior to scheduling it, so that you can add it to the description of the event notes. If you fail to do that, call support, get the contact information, times, and contact support by phone or by chat, and make sure that they know so that they can get to work on it. What will happen is they'll immediately get to work on communicating with our provider management team and ensuring that we have a provider, and then they'll communicate back with you to make sure that you and the patient know when a provider is going to be contacting the patient. So that's it, guys. We appreciate it. We appreciate all your hard work and everything, having you guys as clients, and we wish you guys the best and your patients the best, and hope you nothing but success. So thank you for watching this, and let us know if you have any questions.